Hello, hello.
Hi there. How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Nice to meet you.
You too.
So, yeah, it's first one of these, so looking forward to it.
Awesome.
Thanks. Hi, John. How you doing?
What's up, man?
Yeah, good to meet you. How you doing?
Good to meet you. Yeah. Hey, Chelsea, what's happening?
Hey, haven't seen you in a while.
Long time no speak. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Cool, man. Good to
Hi.
hear.
I've
Nice.
been just connecting to audio, I think Ben is, so yeah, that's all good.
Where are you, Rob?
I'm in England, so East Sussex, England. So
Okay.
so yeah, don't know if you've been to England much, but about an hour
I
from
have.
Brighton.
I have. Yeah. South Africans always spend some time in London, so
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. That's about an hour away from London. So whereabouts are you guys?
I'm
I'm in
Los Angeles.
Austin, Texas.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah. Los Angeles, Austin, Ben. I don't know where Ben is, but
Cool. So yeah, we've got Ben and Andrew Smith joining and Shane Barker. But I guess yeah, this first one of mine's that we've done this. So I guess if I'm doing something wrong, just help me out. But I will get started in a few minutes, I guess. And I'll just give them a couple more minutes to get here.
Sounds good.
yeah. I know it's like 10 minutes per speaker, but are you gonna keep everyone backstage and then bring us in as you need us to speak, or you want us all kind of live and conversational?
Yeah, you can be backstage if I know how to do how to have you backstage. That's fine. So and then just yeah, it's whatever works whatever works for you guys really. So it's yeah, 10 minutes to speaker and conversational is good, but whatever you want really. So
Yeah, I mean we can either be on or we can just be in the background. So either you can move us backstage or we can turn our videos and audio off and listen and
yeah,
keep it
yeah,
centered with whoever's speaking, and then we can drop in whenever. Yeah.
do that. I mean, just yeah, just feel free to turn it off and come in whenever and just share screen. I'll yeah introduce you when everybody else is finished. Hi Shane.
What's going on? How's everybody doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks. Good to meet you.
Good, good,
I'm
good. Nice
Robert.
to meet you too. Yeah, yeah. Nice to meet you, Robert. Here, let me shut down all the fun stuff, the notifications.
Hmm, awesome. Yeah, I've just done that as well.
Yeah.
What's up,
Hi
Shane?
Ben. Hi
What's
Ben,
going
good to
on,
meet
man?
you.
How are you guys?
Good, good.
All
Nice to see
good.
you.
Man.
So yeah, as mentioned, first one of doing these. So if it goes a little bit technically awry, then bear with me. But yeah, I'll introduce you all, and yeah, and then let's get started. I'm looking forward to hearing your stuff, and obviously feel free to, you know, turn off your cameras and so forth when you're not speaking, whatever you want to do. So it's all good. But I'm Robert, and I'm Mr. Prime, and I've obviously heard of a lot of you, and come across you on various LinkedIn things. So thanks very much for for joining and for sharing some information.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for thinking of us.
No
Yeah.
problem. So basically, and just first of all, we've got myself. I'm going to talk about just unlocking Amazon B2B. I'm just going to go through five or so key levers that I notice a lot in accounts that we work on that have done really well for us, in terms of Amazon business. Then after that, Chelsea Cohen from SoStocked is going to talk about leveraging B2B to increase profitability. Then Shane Barker, TraceFuse, why your Amazon reviews matter much more than your ad spend. John Tilley after that, ZonGuru, structured listing engineering, how Amazon's AI is changing which products get recommended. Uh, Andrew Smith from Swapt after that, from one-time orders to long-term accounts, retention strategies for Amazon B2B. And Ben Kotch, AccrueMe, different structures to fund B2B growth. And then if there's time, there'll be some Q&A. So with that said, I shall get started and share my screen.
Nice. All right. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Thanks. Right, 1 second. So hopefully you see my screen now.
Yep.
Let me get it into the actual present mode. Bear with me. So basically, I want to talk about Amazon B2B because it's not a very talked about thing. And for the first webinar, I thought about doing AI and all of this sort of stuff, but I thought actually Amazon B2B is something that's kind of boring, but it's kind of where we see good results, if I'm honest with you. And I wanted to focus on that for now. So basically, Amazon B2B is a lot bigger than a lot of people consider, and it's kind of the most neglected thing that we see with client accounts that we look at. There's 35 billion in Amazon annualized gross sales, 8 million verified businesses, and the big thing is 74% more unit per order versus consumer buyers. And the conversion rates are often 3x higher, obviously depending on the niche, but we notice a lot the conversion rates, if you look in business reports, are considerably higher for B2B in a lot of niches that we work in. Business buyers see you in a completely different light. So for a consumer view, that would look like retail price, standard listing, consumer buy box, all the things that you're familiar with. For a business, it's business exclusive price, quantity discount ladder, tax exclusive price, so enabling that, very important, and procurement language such as bulk, trade, etc. So we can come to that in a moment, but they kind of look at things a little differently. So business enabled pricing is very important for business visibility. So a lot of people sort of say, well, my business isn't something that could benefit from B2B. It's like, it could be quite obscure, but we don't have a single account, and we work in some really obscure niches that doesn't have B2B and a B2B element to it. So salons and spas, hair care, beauty products, towels, gyms and fitness for supplements even. So cleaning products, hotels, hospitality, you get the idea. There's lots of use cases for business B2B buyers that, it's not just stationery and it's not just office equipment. It is a lot of different things. And as I say, we've got some severely obscure things that I can't imagine how people get it through the business, but they do. And so there's a business sort of element to everything. The 5 things that we personally are looking at mainly are in the back end. It's in B2B Central, which is in Seller Central. And scroll down, go to B2B Central. There's the business price, and these can have an uplift. This is the kind of uplift that we've quantified based on our accounts of 10%, and basically setting a business price. So if your price is £20, you can set it at 18 for a business price, or sorry, 17, and then effectively, that helps you show up better in win the buy box more in Amazon B2B. Quantity discounts, which is where obviously you're offering, multiple tiers. So if people buy 5, you get 5% off. If people buy 10, 7%, and so on, tiered according to, your profit margins, obviously. Multi-packs is the third one, which is, an ability to create case packs. Now, in most accounts, Amazon will give you case pack recommendations and say this would work well in a 10-pack, etc. But you can also look at your order histories, see how many people are buying, and experiment with that a bit as well by creating multi-packs and case packs. And I'll come to that in a bit more detail in a moment. And then business bid adjustments. For PPC, Amazon Business, as I mentioned, often does, when it's done properly, certainly convert at a much higher percentage, and therefore B2B has a B2B setting that a lot of sellers don't use, which is basically clicking that and you can bid up to 900% on to target B2B buyers, so to be more in front of those. And that's something I'd highly recommend doing, in the right niches. And then lastly, a quote for RFQ, which is basically when companies come to you and they want a specific quote, they're often in there. And I'll come to it again in a moment. I saw one today, literally today, of £17,000 in a seller account that the guy didn't know it was there, and it expired in like 24. So they exist and they can be big as well. So these 5 toggles, here's how to get to them. Business price is basically inventory, manage all inventory, and there's a business price column in there. Quantity discounts, it's basically inventory, manage inventory, add quantity discounts. Create new ASIN multi-pack. Campaign manager placements tab, Amazon business placements, it's a little button there. And B2B Central, manage quotes for the people that are requesting quotes and submit your price in that, basically. And I'll share this afterwards so you can find those more easily. If I then go to, oops, one moment, I've been to that one already. If I then go to here, here's how it works with toggling the campaigns for B2B on and off. And this is some results that we've noticed. So basically, ACOS 30%. These are results from, I took a sample of 5 of our business customers. CPC 1.18 average. And when we told business on and we advertised it on B2B listings, with the conversion being higher, the ACOS was actually a lot lower and the ROAS ended up higher. And again, you can bid up to 900%. I recommend starting small with that and incrementally experimenting with it because every niche will be different. In the terms of the RFQ, literally, as I say, literally today, I redid the slide because I saw one in an account that we were auditing of 17,000 and the guy didn't know that this part existed, and it is in the DIY space as well. So it was something that potentially would be absolutely perfect for this. Buyer submits a quote request, you get a notification in Seller Central, you accept, counter offer or ignore, and the order is placed. And if you're not checking that, go and have a look in B2B Central and then RFQ quotes, and you may have something in there. There's often things in there that go missed with the noise of Amazon. If you get more of them, check B2B Central daily or set up app notifications, respond quickly within 24 hours, and enable quantity discounts, which makes your ASINs more visible to bulk buyers. Here is just 3 results. You can't see them that clearly, but it's basically in a lot of the accounts that I've gone in just today before this, B2B is growing at a much faster rate than general. And I think it's because general Amazon consumer facing is obviously everybody knows their way around it, and B2B feels like a little bit more unknown, a little bit more unused. So here are just some results. And again, we grow accounts sometimes just by increasing the average order value, not even increasing the units sold. And I'll go into more detail on that in a moment. Every percentage point of B2B mix is worth 2,000 a month on a 200 revenue base. So this is an example of the sort of things that you can get in terms of growth. So for a 200,000 amount a monthly revenue account, an extra potentially 240k to 360 a year based on percentage points of growth. And we have accounts that are 60% B2B and 40% consumer, and then we have ones as low as 8%. So it's a big mix, but there is a huge amount of growth there. But it's not just growth, it's also profitable growth, because effectively it's, let me just show you here. This is an example of the unit economics. So if you've got single unit economics, for example, so you get one of these items and it's basically sells for £3, sells for £10 retail, FBA fee, £3 a small parcel. Your net contribution is 37% based on that. If you sell it as a 10 pack, not only do you not have to package up 10 individual orders and send them out operationally from the back end, you also pay an FBA fee in this case of £3.54 on this use case. So you only pay 54p more. So you're not paying multiple FBA fees on top. You can actually discount the product down to, for this case, like £90, which is a discount of 10%, but your actual net contribution is 60% margin versus 37%. So not only by using multi-packs are you increasing, the average order value, you're decreasing the amount of work it takes to fulfill them, and you're also, most importantly, increasing the profit by not paying multiple FBA fees. This is something that I recommend any account tries. If they do nothing else, definitely do this one because most industries have room for multi-packs, and even a 2-pack, 3-pack, 5-pack, when you start promoting it towards business, B2B, using the other levers in this, definitely affects your bottom line, and also importantly, it decreases the amount of logistic headache that you get from having to send out multiple small orders. So that's something that I would strongly suggest. To find out how you are doing on B2B, basically go to into Seller Central, B2B Central. It will show you the breakdown there on the first screen of your B2B sales, and it will also show you your normal consumer sales, and it will also show you the growth. And it might be surprising, when you see the split. If you're in an industry that seems to lend itself to B2B and you're not, in the 20s and above percentage-wise, you've probably got a lot of room for growth. But either way, if you use the 5 levers of business price, quantity discounts, multi-pack ASINs, business bid adjustments, and look at the quotes, it's definitely a very good start to growing that and and experimenting with it. There's a lot of data and information in there. I hope that helps, and I'll be sharing the slides after the call. Thanks. So Next, have Chelsea Cohen from SoStocked talking about leveraging B2B to increase profitability. Yeah, it's all yours, Chelsea.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Hey guys. So yeah, I think I'll kind of build on a little bit of what Rob said, especially based on the profitability side of things. But wanted to go through some of the mindset shift in terms of the customers. So the customers' demand is driven for continuous operation. So being able to continue to run your business and to continue to function. So it is less based on whims or desires. It's more based on strong needs. And running out of stock is definitely not something that you can afford to do because they can't afford to run out of stock because they can't keep their operations running. So inventory and keeping in stock is very important. If you are out of stock often, you could lose that customer forever. So it's important to be sure to understand not just the needs, but also what are the buying cycles. You can get into, subscribe and save and patterns and things like that. So those are things to consider if you want to not just attract B2B customers, but also to keep them. Inventory is an important piece. And one of those when you're starting to go after those customers, buying in bulk could be a little bit of a surprise. So creating a little more of a cushion for that particular side of the business, I think is very important to understand. Uh, Obviously, when you are running a business, there's a general functionality, there's a general flow of things. So products are usually bought in workflows, in batches, and they're often, like Rob said, bought in bulk and bought on a recurring basis. You'll have, an order cycle. Uh, Skipping on to the next slide, understanding the unit economics and that it's not just expanding your business through volume. The magic can come in the form of expanding, restructuring how you create your products and how you create your orders. So things like going from single units to multi-units, like Rob mentioned, creates lower pick and pack fees, less packaging per unit will help to reduce some of those costs on that side of things. Being able to send out, if you send out, let's say, not FBA, you send out, FBM, then less shipments will create more operational efficiency, and you can start to have a better prediction on some of your inventory velocity if you look at those patterns and if you ensure that you've got that inventory in stock. So being able to look into the future, you've got a little bit more prediction on what your volume will be. As far as the margins, profitability, like we said, is gained by order composition. So, being able to take a single order, which has generally a high fulfillment cost. In this example, 450, single order costs 450 per unit, and then you get into bulk orders, let's say 12 units in a shipment. The fulfillment cost doesn't increase. It doesn't increase item for item. So you could end up paying 60 cents per unit for that order, which completely changes the dynamics. Even if you are giving those discounts and reducing those prices, the way that you structure your units can far offset the discounts that you're providing. So you're not just looking at improving your bottom line through your volume, you're looking at improving it through the margins that you're creating in the fulfillment costs. Another thing to consider is when you are, looking at your inventory and your shipping, lowering your units, your handling fees per unit So, for example, if you're paying to sticker those units, then it would be less FBA stickers that are going on that, for example. Being able to, like I mentioned, predict your inventory depletion. How much inventory do you need? Because you can have a future forecast based on that. And then operational efficiency, handling less items, it means that you'll have less labor costs and less packaging per unit. All right, and then looking at buying behavior, this is something that you can take the data that you can find in your catalog, and you might be able to identify that you've already got customers that are purchasing large volumes of products. So something that have happened to, clients of ours, not expecting a particular product to be a business buying product, all of a sudden started getting in large volumes of sales and started to recognize, oh, this is actually something that is being purchased by specific types of businesses. So looking into your data, looking into, are there repeated bulk orders, people ordering multiples, is something to look out for. When you've got your orders and the units per order are higher. And looking at your subscribe and save patterns, especially if you have subscribe and save, which have high units in within their subscription. Customers ordering multi-units off of your catalog. So ordering, within, specific replenishment patterns. So maybe they're not subscribe and save, but they have, particular replenishment patterns. And then ordering maybe multiple types of products off of your catalog. So maybe you have a couple of different things and they're ordering a couple of those different things. That can start to give you some ideas on creating bundles and things like that. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a sec. All right, so yeah, so in terms of how to look at this behavior and how to be able to start monetizing, if you are nervous about the idea of creating these big multi-packs, you can start by doing a virtual bundle. This does not save you in terms of your fees. So it's something that I say would be short-lived. But if you wanted to test demand before you go all in on doing these large case packs, you can go that route. And then that would help you to validate, is this product something that we could do a bulk case pack. You can also do coupons on complementary products. So working to increase the cart size and looking at what are those complementary products that maybe might go together. Can I provide those coupons? And can I even work within the listing to make customers aware that I have these other complementary products? So they might already be buying from a competitor, and you might be able to switch them over to purchasing from you because they want to maybe purchase from the same company, or they maybe want to you can offer better discounts. And then moving into the physical case packs. So this is where you really unlock those margins, where the fulfillment fees significantly reduce, and then you're able to, get into the packaging discounts and that sort of thing. The volume can also, if you can increase your volume significantly, you could also go back to your supplier and potentially negotiate with your supplier to get those unit discounts, right? And then you want to start looking at what are the types of buyers. And Rob had a lot of better examples. He has worked with a lot of clients on this, obviously. But the idea of trying to understand who is buying your product, what are those buyer types, and what is important to them, and what are some opportunities for creating bundles or even creating new products that might be complementary. So for example, warehousing operations, they want to have efficiency and they don't want their business to be interrupted. Say they run out of labels. That's, basically puts things at a standstill. So they want products to remain in stock and they want to optimize those operations. So things like if you sell packaging, maybe you can sell tape, you can sell labels, those types of things. Office supplies, the office buyers usually want to simplify the purchasing and they want to, of course, stay in stock. They want to make sure that the spend is predictable so they don't have to go back to budgeting and ask for more money because the price changed. So keeping your price from swinging very significantly. And then they want easy reordering, which is generally why they go on Amazon or why they do subscribe and save. Some opportunities to consider maybe, items for copy station, maybe items for break room. So some of the other things, besides just tape and staples and things like that. And then you have cleaning supplies. In terms of cleaning supplies, thinking of doing bulk buys or refill systems if you're selling individual products. The cleaning supplies, if someone is cleaning a large office or a large, building, they want to keep the same bottles and have that refill system that costs less than buying a bottle, the same, a single size bottle all the time. So just some ideas for how to figure out who are those buyer segments and what bundle opportunities could be created and promoted on your listings and what products could you potentially bring to market that are products that are obviously being purchased by the buyers that are purchasing your products. So to wrap up, the opportunity isn't just in selling more to businesses. It's really restructuring your economics and identifying opportunities to expand those cart sizes. So being able to sell more units with less orders, being able to identify those multi-SKU opportunities, operational efficiency in your warehousing, and then those predictable patterns to know what is coming in the future in terms of your subscribe and save and your recurring bulk orders. That's it. If you want to reach out to me, go ahead and you can write to me at chelsea@carbon6.io if you have questions about inventory, profit, that sort of thing. And I can send you, I've got a playbook that essentially goes through kind of most of the items on your P&L and reduces those costs and those fees and gives you strategies for that. So hopefully this was valuable and I'll pass it back to Rob.
Thank you very much, Chelsea. Yeah, really good. And yeah, complemented mine really well. I love the virtual bundles thing. It's something that's, the testing with virtual bundles because you don't have to go straight in and just operationally change everything. You can actually test it with virtual bundles in the US, and you can obviously send in smaller sample sizes of smaller bundles, just just to test things, just the orders really. So that was a really great addition. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely.
Next got Shane Barker from TraceFuse talking about why Amazon reviews matter more than your ad spend, and they definitely do.
Absolutely, Rob. Thank you so much. And Chelsea, thank you so much. And thanks for having me today. So, yeah, my name is Shane Barker. I'll go ahead and share my screen. We'll go ahead and get the presentation started. So, obviously, we're going to be talking about ad spend, but obviously, really, the premise of this whole thing is B2B, right? We got Amazon B2B and why that actually matters. And so, what I want to do, let me go ahead and get this presentation going for you guys. All right. All right. Now we're moving. All right. So really what we're looking at here, as I said, my name is Shane Barker, the owner of TraceFuse. What we're looking at is when you talk about B2B, when you talk about really anything you do on Amazon, I think we all know, and if you don't know, I'm here to tell you that reviews are going to be a major component of this whole thing. What I mean by that is if you have bad reviews, you're not going to be able to sell to consumers. You're also not going to be able to sell to businesses, right? So at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you're monitoring, you're watching your reviews and making sure that you guys, if there's any bad reviews that come up and they violate Amazon's guidelines, we'll kind of go into that here in the presentation, how you can get those removed. And we actually have a free thing that we're going to offer at the end that you can go and figure out doing your own synopsis and own evaluation by using our tool for free. So really, obviously, reviews are going to be the core of Amazon, right? We all know that whether we go and we look at Amazon, whether you realize it or not, you're going to go look up in the left-hand corner. You're going to see what those reviews are. If there's terrible reviews, it doesn't matter how much you spend. It doesn't matter how much you pitch somebody. If the reviews are bad, people assume you have a bad product, right? So really you're going to have to figure out your ad spend without trust, right? So many sellers pour money into PPC and do these types of things to try to drive sales. The same thing if you're pitching B2Bs, you're pitching a company to come in and buy at bulk. They're going to look at your reviews and that's going to either be a sale or not going to be a sale, right? And that's obviously you want to be able to get as much sales as we can as Amazon. Clicks don't guarantee sales, right? So what I'm talking about there is if you're driving that traffic there, and you're going and you're going trying to get sales there. If you don't have great reviews, you're not going to get sales. I mean, it's just plain simple. Reviews drive conversions, right? So if we have great, if we're at we'll talk about this a little later, but when the drop-offs happen at certain levels of, maybe from a 4.7, maybe a 4.3 to 4.2, obviously a 4.0 to 3.9, those are all going to be places where there can be big issues when you have a drop in sales. And so once again, what people see there, they assume that that is the truth because it's on Amazon and the reviews need to be good there. So let's talk about how those affect your conversion rate. So I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. If you have a 4.3 and you go to a 4.2, what happens is you lose that visual half a star, right? So now you've gone from, looks like a 4.5 to a 4.0. The psychology behind that is huge. We've seen some of our clients lose 10 to up to 50% of their sales because of that drop. And so, we always try to encourage people that want to work with TraceFuse to come to us before that happens, because you don't want to drop down and then you get to a 4.2 and then all of a sudden your sales are in shambles, and then you're going to reach out to us and we're going to do everything we can to get those reviews removed as quickly as possible. But it is not a fast process. It's not something like you see reviews get removed within 24 hours. It takes time to do that. We're filing cases, sending emails, and it's just not a quick process. So make sure you're being more proactive than reactive when it comes to that. And then trust breakdowns, right? We're looking at, reviews. Obviously, that makes it so that a consumer will take a look at that and either trust the product or not trust the product. Reviews are going to be all through the online, right? We have Trustpilot, we have Yelp, these are all based. People go and take a look at those and they evaluate whether they want to go to your restaurant, buy your products on Amazon, whatever that may be. And it also hurts your visibility and rankings. So if you have bad reviews, guess what? You're going to be pushed down in the BSR, or I guess push up, whatever. You're going to get higher in the numbers where people aren't going to see you. It really affects everything, right? You start to lose rank, you lose social trust, social proof. There's all kinds of things that happen there. So you got to make sure that, the good things are happening. If you get attacked or something happens, once again, you want to be proactive about monitoring that. And we'll talk about that here in a second. So what are we looking at? So most Amazon sellers never really recover. And so we've seen, and I've heard crazy stories of amazing brands. They put all their hard work and build out this brand. They go launch on Amazon. They get a few bad reviews and they're done. And so you got to make sure that you're really monitoring that and staying on top of that and really have a plan for that. If you do get bad reviews, what are you going to do, right? And obviously getting more positive reviews is going to be great. They have the Vine program, which can be awesome depending on what your product is. Sometimes it can't be great. Not everything is awesome there, but once again, it can be good. It's better to have a great foundation of good reviews, and then if you get a bad review, doesn't hurt quite as much, right? It doesn't knock down your launch. So you want to go make sure you don't react too late. You want to focus on other things, not just focus on PPC. You need to ignore the review signals, right? And then they wait until rankings collapse, right? That is not the time to wait. You want to be proactive, figure out your plan now, work with TraceFuse or other companies out there that monitor the reviews and make that kind of stuff happen. So review influence rankings, right? So what we talked about, I touched on a little bit earlier, but we have Amazon's obviously, A9 and 10 is the algorithms weighs really heavy on obviously the quality of your reviews, right? And then rating trends and review velocity, and there's a number of different things that play into that. But your actual reviews, when somebody leaves an actual physical review, obviously is going to be weighed heavier than somebody that gives you just a rating, right? So you want to make sure that those reviews are good. Ad spend that you can't fix, obviously, with poor reviews. I always tell people, listen, you can have a foundation for your house. If it's a bad foundation, you can put as many floors on there as you want, but guess what? Eventually it's going to collapse. So you want to make sure your foundation is good, and foundation in this example is going to be obviously the reviews that you have. So better reviews equal better organic growth. Obviously you can have a terrible product and great reviews. We've all seen that with maybe competitors where they're selling and you have a better product, but you got terrible reviews. That could be either because of actual reviews or because you've been attacked. Either way, it still is the same outcome. It's going to be lower sales. So the real ROI equation, right? So when we started TraceFuse, I started about 6 years ago. The last 4 years we went live for 2 years of trying to figure it out. But The cool part about it is now what we're doing is originally it was just removing reviews, but now we actually take a look at the ROI, right? Like, what are we talking about here? It's not just removing reviews. We actually have proprietary calculators that we use that you can use, and then you can go in and be able to see, hey, if I want to get from a 4.7 to 4.8, how many reviews think we need to get removed, and what does that look like? Does that make sense to move forward with that? And once again, we're building that because I don't want you to spend money and not have a realistic expectation of what that outcome could be. So reviews multiply ad spend. Obviously, if you have bad reviews, and it'll hurt your ad performance. Poor reviews drain ROI. Obviously, we understand that as well. You're working harder even though your foundation is not great. And then better ratings create compounding growth, right? So the better ratings that you get, and we have some companies that have thousands of reviews, they're at a 4.7. Honestly, do you need TraceFuse? You probably don't, right? At the end of the day, you've already got a great foundation. Even if you get attacked, unless somebody, buys 1,000 of your products and does something crazy, for the most part, you're good. You want to get to that point where you have that great foundation, and so you're good there. So we're going to talk a little bit about the reviews that you can get removed, right? What we do here at TraceFuse. So legally removable reviews. So those are going to be anything that violates Amazon's guidelines, right? Amazon's community guidelines. So that's mentioning competitors, cussing. That's going to be talking about exact pricing, and also FBA related stuff. So if something got shipped out late, broken, or used, those are all things that has to do with Amazon, right? That's a shipping issue. So if somebody says, "Oh my God, I hate this product. It was 2 weeks late." Well, you don't hate the product. You hate the fact that it was 2 weeks late. And, mistakes happen. Amazon's a big company. But Amazon does obviously stop some of those reviews from coming through. What we do is the ones that do make it through their moat, their system that they have, then we're the ones that go and pick it up and file cases or send emails to Amazon. So these are all some of the different things we have, some examples there. Other things we look at is off-topic or irrelevant reviews, fraudulent and competitor attacks. That's one thing that is strategic that we do, is that we're the only ones that inside of our software, we actually are able to see if there's any fraud. So we look at what people are doing from a black hat perspective. We've built that into the software. So if somebody comes and buys your products 5 times in a row and only gives you 1-star reviews, what we're looking at there is we go, wait a second, what is the likelihood of that? Obviously, it's very low, right? You're not going to come and buy a product that you hate over and over and over. And then we go and take a look. And if they just happen to buy your competitors, and you guys have very similar products, and they only give them 5-star reviews, then we file an escalation case with Amazon. So fraudulent and competitor attacks, it does happen on Amazon. The big spaces or categories that happens is going to be pets, beauty, and then obviously supplements is another one. All right, so winning on Amazon. So what do we have to do here? So what are the big sellers, the people that are crushing it on Amazon? What are they doing? They're taking, as I said, a more proactive approach to review management, using customers' reviews to optimize listings and boost conversions, strengthening review signals, right, to improve ranking and visibility. This is going to be a big one. Last year, we wouldn't necessarily have this conversation, but now we have Rufus. Well, Rufus is gone, but anything that goes in, any algorithm that goes in, what it's now doing is it's going and taking a look at your reviews, and it's given a synopsis of what those reviews say. So if you have 10,000 reviews and you're like, hey, nobody's going to go look at the last, 9,682. Well, guess what? Now they have a synopsis. There's a thing that people can look and say, hey, a lot of people are saying this was the issue with the product, right? And so you want to make sure, it's one thing to just ignore that. But if Amazon starts picking that up and showing the consumer, you want to clean that up, right? It's no longer a situation where you can just kind of skate by. Building long-term growth, obviously, increasingly competitor marketplace, and then managing review signals is no longer optional. As I said, sellers who actively monitor and address these reviews, sooner than later, are the ones that are going to be protecting their rankings, obviously maintaining conversions and avoiding possible loss, right? So reviews, as I'm going to repeat this, reviews are no longer just customer opinions. They're actually signals that shape Amazon's AI and search algorithms. So once again, not something you can sleep on. If you see a common thread with there's some issues that are something that, once again, maybe it's a review that has a cuss word in it, maybe it can be a legit issue. But the thing is the way we get that removed is because there is somebody cussing in that review, even though it could be a valid review. So once again, we want to make sure you evaluating that and figuring out a plan. We talked about a little bit earlier. I'm going to tell you really what you need to do moving forward. Your action plan is going to be this. You need to audit your review health, right? You make sure you see if you have any drops in the ratings or anything like that. You want to take a look at harmful patterns. If you usually get 1 star a day and then all of a sudden you get 10 for 3 days in a row, that obviously is the velocity of bad reviews. You want to make sure you're taking a look at that. And then you have some conversion leaks that that may implement because of your visibility, and you could lose sales because of that. And then flag policy violating reviews. That's what we talked about. Feedback, competitor attacks, anything that's against Amazon's own guidelines, and you want to monitor and protect your listings. So this is something that we do at TraceFuse. We grab your reviews, we file cases and emails, as I said earlier, then we actually monitor you moving forward. This was something that we added about a year and a half ago. And the reason why we did that is because we want to continue to protect you, right? If you get attacked or something happens, we want to make sure that you're protected there. If you don't use TraceFuse, totally fine. I mean, obviously you can monitor it yourself on your own. It's a little bit more of a tedious process. We've obviously built software for that, but not a problem. Even if you don't use TraceFuse, once again, make sure that you're at least taking a look at your reviews and monitoring that and being able to do that. And I do have some amazing news for you. So I did tell you that at the end or close to the end here, that we would have an offer for you that's free. If you go to tracefuse.ai, and that's TRACEFUSE.ai, you can go right up to the top. There's a thing called an Amazon review checker. And what you can do is you can click on that. You can put in the link to a ASIN, or you can put in the ASIN number. And what will happen is you go and you verify your email address. And then what will happen is you'll actually get a report that'll look something like this on the right-hand side. What it'll show you is the review ID. It'll tell you the issue, right? So these are all going to be your top removable reviews that obviously violate Amazon's terms of service. And what you'll see is the review title, the star rating, 1, 2s, or 3s, because those are all critical reviews, and the reason for the non-compliance. So the reason why we're doing this is that you can go and take a look at that. And you can take a look at the top reviews that we feel that we would be filing on if you were to hire us. You can go file on your own, or you can also look to see what people are saying and figure out if there's issues with your products, or if maybe there was something that somebody's lying about. There's a lot of great information here. The idea of this is that you go and you take a look at your ASINs and you figure out, hey, I'm going to go do this on my own. Awesome. If you don't want to do it on your own, obviously we're always here to help. So talk about TraceFuse. Obviously, I've already kind of told you guys what we do, how we do it. We do have our thing is proprietary. Our software that we created is proprietary to us. It is AI powered, and what I mean by that, we're not using any of the AI current engines that we have. We actually built our own. We built it about 3.5 years ago. And once again, this was before AI went crazy. We were looking at way to streamline our process. And once again, I will remind you that when we're talking about this, we actually file all cases manually. So don't use AI to file your cases. That is against Amazon's guidelines. So we use AI just to look at the reviews, and then we have these things called humans that are actually filing the cases. So make sure if you're using AI, do not just file those directly. You want to make sure you're using humans. You want to customize it. We have our done for you. Obviously, removals will, when you hire TraceFuse, we're a set it and forget it software. You don't even have to worry about anything. You activate the ASINs you want. We're going to make magic happen and file cases on your behalf and get things going. And then we obviously offer that ongoing protection, which is going to make it so that you can focus on the 9 million other things you have to work on as sellers, and you don't have to worry about reviews, which we're going to take care of the core thing of Amazon. Awesome. So I'll give you a quick little background. Once again, TraceFuse, we just hit the 20,000 review mark. We've removed over 20,000 reviews for our customers. That is in the Amazon space. We do the US, Canada, and UK, and 20,000 reviews. That is no easy feat. Once again, we were the first company to do it. We are the biggest out there. We work with about 750 brands, and we have a 25% removal rate. So we are the highest in the industry. And once again, we're all performance-based. We have no contracts. If you enjoy working with us, you want to remove reviews, great, we're going to be here. If you don't, you can cancel at any time. Once again, I'm not here to hold anybody hostage. Our goal is just to make it a no-brainer. So once again, being a set it and forget it software, we want you just to be able to do what you need to do on your side. Here goes some of our testimonials. We have about 20 video testimonials. If you go to the website, you'll be able to see it. You can drop down and you'll be able to click on the testimonials. I'm not going to go heavy into this because obviously we've done our job. We've done this for a very, very long time. You can see that on the website. And if you have any questions, once again, go over to tracefuse.ai. And you guys can also follow me on LinkedIn. I actually got, in the last month and a half, I was marked as the #2 FBA Amazon guy in regards to FBA Amazon on LinkedIn. So very, very proud of that. We're getting last month, I think we hit about 1 million impressions. So once again, reach out to me there. We, on LinkedIn, we are constantly posting stuff about reviews in the Amazon space and updates. We have an amazing newsletter, which I could be a little biased, but it is pretty awesome. And if you guys ever need anything from me, you can reach out to me at shane@tracefuse.ai. Once again, I don't gatekeep. I answer all of my emails. We're just here to help Amazon sellers, because we know that it becomes difficult. We know margins are, getting smaller and smaller, and our goal is just to help you on the review side of things. So once again, everybody, thank you for having me today. I appreciate it.
Hi there. Oops, sorry, a second. Thanks, Shane. That was really useful. And and having tried to do review removal myself, I decided to torture myself instead. So basically, it's not as easy as it seems to go and just flag these, you know. So I know that from a bit of experience, and we just backed away from that really quick. So it's well worth taking the pain away. So thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So next we have John Tilley from ZonGuru talking structured listing engineering, how Amazon's AI is changing, which it seems to be changing every other day, and which products get recommended. So thank you, John.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yes, can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Sorry. Yeah. All good. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Super cool. Shane, that was great. Chelsea. I want to talk to you about structured listing engineering for Amazon's AI era. Uh, at ZonGuru, we have a bunch of different tools, but our specific focus over the last few years has been how to reverse engineer Amazon's algorithm and give you more discoverability, ranking, etc. And so that's our area of strength. We've focused a lot on structured content for Rufus over the last year. That's obviously changed now to Alexa for shopping, and there's massive opportunity there, and conversational search is absolutely growing. So we look at it through the consumer lens, but there's obviously the B2B side as well. So I want to talk to you about that today. This is the unpopular opinion. Alexa for shopping is Amazon's best salesperson, and I 100% agree with this. It is a proactive way of shopping now, and conversational search is showing 60% higher propensity to convert than the typical funnel. So you need to leverage that, right? And you need to make sure that most listings or your listings are giving it everything it needs to be able to sell your product. So how does it recommend you? Part of that is how do you structure your content for signaling to make sure that it can recommend you in the right situations, right? And so this is the critical area that we've been focusing on. The cool part about that is for everyone is that your listings can now be, they can actually talk about your product, your USP, what's different about your product, rather than just being stuffed with keywords, right? So there's this ability for your listing to breathe and really communicate your product, which is great. And then obviously you have to have the technical AI readability and structure behind it as well, which is what we do. So I think that the best thing to give you guys right up front now, because you can actually do this while I chat through the next few slides in the next 10 minutes. Let me just turn my timer on here so I don't run long for you guys. I want to make sure I do this right. Is to get you to sign up for this free product we have. It's an audit that will look at your AI readiness score for your listings on Amazon. So just drop your bestseller or any ASIN you want into this. Go to zonguru.link/CosmoRS. CosmoRS. You'll go on that. You'll just have to add your email address, verify it, and then you can just drop your ASIN in 2 minutes. You'll get this score. I'm going to show you that in a few minutes, but I think it's worthwhile as you go along to just let that run so that when we get to Q&A at the end, after everyone's spoken, if you have questions on that, you can absolutely bring it up with me. It's free, so just jump in and get that done. It's a really critical piece to your business at the moment. So this is the shift, right? So what is conversational search? And frankly, Cosmo, which is the algorithm that drives conversational search and your organic ranking, it's an intelligent algorithm. What's shifting in the space as people use more conversations? So these two phrases here, the conference room projector, keep showing a lamp warning, or order more of these nitrile gloves that, for our clinic from last month, right? There's not really like a keyword query that you can optimize for there, right? This is how people are typing it in. And if you're typing that into Alexa for shopping, it's intelligence enough to give the recommendations or go and look at your past search history, find that product and put it forward, right? So how do you make sure that your content is signaling in the right way? So Cosmo knows how to connect the dots and then surface you through conversational search and Alexa for shopping. And by the way, it's an important point there that this is not just, hey, if I open up the chat agent on Amazon, I can have that conversation. Amazon has raised their hand with Alexa for shopping, and we've got examples of this already where you will just type in any type of phrase, and if it believes that a conversation or an AI summary is better for you, it's going to surface that. So gone are just the normal search results that you see on Amazon. We're seeing, what was Rufus a couple of weeks ago, and now Alexa for shopping getting surfaced directly from a query, right? So you don't even have the choice anymore. It's coming up, and over the next couple of weeks, we're going to see a lot more of that kind of ingrained conversational search happening in the typical search results, right? So it's critical that you are surfacing for this because otherwise you're not going to get recommended. And by the way, it's obviously 2 or 3 recommendations. It's not even like 25 on page 1 anymore. So it's really important. You can go to my LinkedIn if you want to read a little bit more about this. And there's actually a blog on ZonGuru that gets a lot more into what are the technical changes and the strategy changes around Alexa for shopping. But at the end of the day, right, it's Rufus hasn't actually disappeared. It's just a layer that's behind Alexa for shopping now instead of it being the branded name on the agent. That's called Alexa for shopping. But that buyer Q&A piece is absolutely still important. There's obviously Alexa Plus, which is personalized memory information, which is a really cool strategic move from Amazon to try and get more data, not just even from your buyer experience or questions you have around buying a product, but from your everyday life, right? So as people engage with Alexa, that everyday life aspect then rolls into recommendations as well, right? And that's obviously what ChatGPT has always had as an app on Amazon, right? Because you have everyday life conversations happening in ChatGPT, which they can use as data. So that's part of their play. The other big thing that they announced was this about you. So you can actually personalize your preferences and update that inside of Amazon. And Alexa for shopping is using that as part of the recommendations, right? So they're now giving you the ability to curate that information as well. So again, even across the business side, that is important. So it's going to then, there's other things going, like Shane talked about reviews and performance, etc. But the content and how that signals and the various data sources that are now available as part of Alexa for shopping are critical in how it recommends you. And then that recommendation comes forward, right? So it's not based on just a typed query. It actually is doing that surfacing of your product to a recommendation, right? So it's critical. It's almost like what your PPC and your ads do, where you're trying to get in front of specific users. Now that decision making capability is also being done by the agent before it surfaces you, right? So you've got to be optimized. There's the same thing on the B2B side, right? So I know that there's an agent on that side as well. We're obviously more consumer faced, but there is an agent there. So like understanding like how do you reverse engineer the target audience of a B2B buyer, right? And what are those procurement things that are important? The spend patterns, approval workflows, business, whatever the context is there, right? This all goes into the recommendations, right? So if you are focused on B2B, what are those important things that you need to reverse engineer on the buyer Q&A side of it to ensure that you have that content in there so that it's going to match you for the things that are critical for that business, like policies, etc., right? And then you'll get recommended. I'm going to show you this inside of that report in a second, but what is the actual structured listing engineering? It's on the content side of it, right? You've got to make sure that you are technically connecting the dots for Cosmo, and that's through a product knowledge graph, and there's very specific things you need to do there. And that obviously expands to B2B as well. And then there's a question engineering, which obviously is a reverse engineer of the most common research questions and buyer decision-making questions for customers. And you can think about that through the consumer customer target audience. But if you have a business target audience as well, that's where you can really make sure that you're being recommended as content, right? Because it's not just buying it all the time. It's also recommendations and making sure that you surface for that. So this is the readiness report that we have, which is this diagnostic tool. You can just get in and look at the gap and just understand like, hey, are you fully maximized for AI readability? And if you're not, how do you improve it? That's one step. And then we obviously have a product called Helix, which is making quite a lot of waves in the marketplace. That has 2 goals, which is one, how does it maximize your AI readability and optimization so you can get recommended more, but also to ensure that your content is recreated in a way that helps with human connection and conversion, which we're in that beautiful space where Amazon is finally allowing you to do that and not write these crazy bullets that make no sense because they're stuffed with keywords and you're trying to semantically match for all that. And those days are gone, thank goodness. So this is what a high level of what the report looks like. I can actually probably just show it to you here. If you guys, can you still see my screen?
Yeah, do you want to share the share the screen now, just because we, yeah, can't see it very well at the moment. Can't see the screen at the moment.
You
But
can't
yeah,
see the screen?
no, if you could share
Oh,
the
weird.
screen. Yeah,
Let me share it again.
yeah,
Can you see it now?
that's it. Yes, can see it now. Perfect.
And then if I click over to there, you can see that or no?
Yes, can see that. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay. So yeah, this is it. You just literally sign up where I sent you. You'd add your ACE in here, and it's going to run a report like this, right? So it'll give you a score out of 100, one for the actual technical mapping and one for the Rufus Q&A or buyer Q&A is what we're calling in our coverage, where you're strong and weak. And then importantly, where you're weak, it'll show you an opportunity and how to improve it, right? So if you're not technically mapping for the one that we most see, and this is actually a really good one for business as well, is used with. Actually, this one does check that box, but the used with complementary, right? So, if I'm selling, whatever this is, like if I'm selling, the standing desk converter, this goes really well with monitors, right? So it needs to be able to connect the dots so that if someone's searching for monitors and then, is looking for a standing desk, that you come up as a recommendation because it knows that those products go well together, right? So making sure that you map out all of these, and so where they're underdeveloped or missing, how do you improve that, and how do you actually improve that? It's just through natural language in your content, in your EBC content, and even in your image overlays that help to connect the dots on that front, right? So you just do it in obviously a natural language way, and you'll get there. So again, this product here, obviously, if we improve it, and you score it, you're going to get more sessions, conversions, and discoverability on the conversational side of it under Alexa for shopping. But absolutely, we have a way of looking at your A9 side of it as well, and ensuring that you organically surface as well with seeding the right, subgroup of keywords that then the algorithm can intelligently match you semantically to the biggest universe of keywords that are out there. So like that's a big change that's happened on Amazon as well, which is super cool. All right, let me just make sure you can see my screen again.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Let me share it again. Oh, sorry, slideshow. Yeah, so get on and try that report again. If after that report, if you want to use our product to actually transform your listings and get maximize that AI readability and conversion, you can use our Helix product. It's super AI forward. It'll transform your listings. Like that's actually the one that I just transformed. It got to 98 out of 100. It maps you in the right way and gives you all the copy, image, recommendations, overlays that go on your images, the right kind of images that help with conversion and AI readability, and all your copy content side and EBC content. And it's a really cool AI agentic forward process that will help you to really understand your brand positioning, your product positioning as well on Amazon, and then actually convert all of that into making that the heartbeat of your Amazon listing, which can be readable for AI on the consumer side and B2B. So if you want to try that, there's a 25% off offer here. You can go to zonguru.link/Helix25. Just use Helix25 as the discount code. And it's, you sign up and you can actually do the brand and the product transformations literally for free. And you can check out the whole system. And then when you do the transformation, it's $50 for your main hero ace, and it's a great ROI that you get immediately to make sure that you optimized for AI readability and conversational search on Amazon. So check that out. So those are the two links I give you. The one is obviously that free report. You can run it. If you have questions on that, we can chat about it. And then if you want to try our Helix product specifically, go to zonguru.link/Helix25 and just run your brand through that. It's a cool exercise as well because it really helps you to see the forest from the trees, because it's doing this research around what your brand is and your product and surfacing that as your product positioning, like how you should actually position your product to connect with customers for what they actually really want. So just that in itself is a really cool reflection to see. And then obviously you do the transformation after that, which is pretty cool. That's it from my side.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you very much, John. Appreciate that. And yeah, and I think that's, yeah, it's one of the most, probably, one of the very most important things you can do, is doing that. I highly recommend it. And it's not just for discoverability, as you say, it's conversion as well. The listings just convert better when you actually talk human language in them, really, and that's the big takeaway, because I thought when I was doing it, I'm going to destroy keywords and all this sort of stuff, but actually, you actually just convert better, people buy in. does all the right signals. So discoverability and conversion. So thank you, appreciate it.
Nice. Yeah.
Um, yeah, next got Andrew Smith from Swapt, and it's from one-time orders to long-term accounts, retention strategies for Amazon B2B.
Cool. Thanks for having me. And great presentations, everybody. Nice seeing everyone again. So what we do is, and let me just share my screen here. Um, can everyone see it?
Yep, can see it. It says double click to enter full screen. We can see the background at the moment.
Can you
That's
see it
it. Yeah, got
now?
it. Got it. Yes, got it.
All right, rock on. So starting off, I just want to talk about in general what a lot of people do to create relationships because obviously Amazon doesn't give you the email. They'll put like a product insert in, and my argument is a lot of them are expensive trash. So I've heard product inserts cost up to $2. And what ends up happening is that you create design, you pay, up to, I just found an average of maybe 20 cents to 40 cents per card. You'll put like little QR in the center, the bottom left. Barely anybody will scan it, like 1 out of 100, 1 out of 1,000 sometimes. And what ends up happening is that they just get thrown out. They're not very, they don't end up being very useful. So what does Swap do and how do we help with this? So we have a relationship with Enterprise Printer that gives us inserts because we order so many millions at this point for less than 0.03 cents. So we waive this cost for our brands, and this is something we're really upfront with. We now waive the QR price for our brands. So if you want an insert, it's literally free. Um, Ours look a little differently. So if anyone can see like me in the camera, we have like we'll like gamify it. Here's like one we did for Create Wellness. It'll be like we can do a peel and reveal or just like a regular sticker. You see the one on G Fuel here, where it's like just a formatted sticker that just goes right in the center. And the idea is that because there's a huge CTA, because it's colorful, it stands out on the package and it stays on the product. We usually like stickering the product itself. We could do an insert. Those usually have lower rates. This gets a very high rate. So this one got a 35% scan rate, but we see a total of 20% scan rates on average across the board for a swapped account. And that helps create the customer relationship and go through our automation engine. So what happens, and I'll get to the engine soon, is the first thing we're going to do is we're actually just going to ask if the customer is a business or individual on a landing page. So get the first name, email, etc. Have a little question to see if they're a business or individual. And then here's where our software automation comes in. So if they're a business, then we'll go down this path where they get a text message, like I, the owner of the business, get a text message, and I get their cell phone number, so I'm able to call them right away. And if they're not, then let's just give them an Amazon discount code, remind them to repurchase, upsell, cross-sell throughout our catalog. But the important thing here is that a lot of the times what we see for brands, and I'll walk you through actually a case study to describe this. So what we'll see for brands is if you are a company that is used to getting B2B orders, a lot of the times the businesses vet you by purchasing on just Amazon first, and they don't tell you that they're planning on making a B2B order. They just will make a one-off regular order. They'll probably do this with 3 or 4 different products that are in your category, and they'll say, okay, this is the one I like the best. But if you're not proactively trying to get in front of these people, then you can miss out on an awesome opportunity. So this is a little case study from $50 million plus brand Bird Rock with 35,000 QR stickers, which by the way are literally free. You can facilitate up to they've 8 B2B orders within 6 months for over $1 million in additional revenue. And that's potential revenue that was going through the door because if you get a B2B order for snow shovels and you could potentially get a town, if they weren't to have this giant QR with like some more information that you might want as the person purchasing, they might have missed that person. But no, you get that person's phone number and you call them right away. So that's the entire pitch. It's really quick, but it's just an obvious thing where you need to create relationships with your customers. And if you're doing it the traditional way, you're never going to get in touch with people at scale for an effective enough price point to justify the spend. So, the offer is obvious. And you get in touch afterwards. We'll send an email out. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Andrew. Appreciate that. And it's one thing I was going to say actually about the businesses, like they once you've done a business order with someone, like we find that they often, repeat business order with you, and you can take that relationship offline, frankly, whether or not, you're supposed to, you really can. Big business, they do on loyalty and reliability. So yeah, inserts in B2B, sound great. So thank you. Appreciate it. Awesome. Next is Ben Kotch from AccrueMe, and that's different structures to fund B2B growth. So thanks, Ben.
Hey, hey guys, can you hear me okay?
Yes, can hear you.
All right, cool. Let me try to share my screen. I got 3 slides here, so it'll be short and sweet.
Got it. Can see that.
All right. Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Ben, and I'm one of the co-founders of AccrueMe. So first, thanks Rob for having me here. I think this is, a really great topic that no one or very few people are really talking about. Chelsea, Shane, John, Andrew, great insights and very eye-opening on this whole B2B opportunity. So with B2B, the orders are bigger, the inventory decisions are bigger, and the opportunities can compound quickly. Like I think on that last slide, I saw, a few orders added an extra $1 million in revenue. And that also means that, big mistakes can hurt a lot more and compound a lot more quickly. So I actually remember when I was running my own stores almost like 10 years ago, I turned on a B2B like bulk discount that apparently was a little too good. And I logged in like 2 days later to Seller Central, and I saw that about 2 months of inventory sold in one day. And obviously sounds like a great problem to have, but back then, I basically ended up having to go out of stock for like 4 weeks. So instead of just celebrating a bunch of sales, I had to deal with the reality that, some good B2B stuff also can create some inventory and cash flow problems if you're not properly prepared. So when it comes to funding, it's important not just to think about the top line dollar amount that you're getting, but to also ask, does this capital help me take advantage of bigger opportunities, or does it create more pressure on my business? So the key point is that B2B growth is not just a sales opportunity, it's also an inventory and cash flow potential challenge that, if handled right, can also really turn into a huge win for you. So a big order is really only valuable if you can fulfill it, replenish it, and still have enough cash left to keep operating the business. So before a seller takes on B2B expansion, there are a few things that they really need to understand. So when Amazon sellers compare funding options, a lot of people focus on one thing, and that's going to be the rate. And the rate matters, but one of the big problems with rates, especially when it comes to funding your Amazon or e-commerce business, is that you're usually not comparing apples to apples. So you're going to look maybe at an offer with a fixed fee, another offer with some kind of complicated revenue share formula, and another offer maybe with a traditional APR, and another offer with what's advertised as like a simple annual rate. And then when you can try to compare them all using quick mental math, it can all be very misleading. So for example, I see this all the time. A seller might look at a $100,000 loan with a $7,000 fixed fee and think, oh, this is a 7% interest rate. And that's usually not the case, right? Because usually in those cases, the reason they're using a fixed fee instead of a rate is because if it was a rate, it would be extremely high. And that's because the advance usually is repaid quickly over a few months, either daily or weekly payments. And then the annualized actual APR cost of what you think is a 7% fee actually turns into 40, 50, or even higher APR, depending on the repayment speed and structure. So yes, the rate is very important, but sellers also need to understand the real cost of capital, the repayment timing, and the amount of usable cash they actually keep in the business for inventory heavy businesses, especially sellers expanding into B2B. The structure can matter just as much as the headline rate. There are 5 things other than just the headline rate that I think all sellers should really look at when considering funding. First is going to be how much capital is actually available. So not just the approval amount, but how much usable growth capital is really available after fees, repayments, reserves, and all other restrictions. The second thing is going to be the true cost of capital. So again, like we just said, right, don't just look at the advertised or headline rate. make sure you understand the actual dollars that are going to be paid over time and actually what you're keeping in funding. The third thing is going to be the repayment structure. Is it monthly principal and interest only, revenue based, fully deferred? This is really critical for e-commerce businesses because the wrong repayment structure can pull all of your cash essentially out of your business right when you need the cash the most for things like inventory. And then does the term match your normal inventory cycle? So if the cash is tied up in inventory for 90 or 120, 180 days, but the financing starts taking heavy payments immediately, that mismatch can create a lot of business and even personal stress and discomfort. So how much operation, and then the last thing is going to be how much operational friction comes with the capital. So some options, like going to a traditional bank, for example, can give you pretty good terms, but they're also going to require a lot of heavy reporting, covenants, bank oversight, repeated documentation, audits, inventory counts, all kinds of stuff like that. And those things are fine usually, for a 20 or $50 million a year business with a full-time CFO and accounting team. But for most e-commerce operators, that type of reporting can really slow you down and also end up costing you. So really a simple way to just think about it is like this. The best funding option is not always the one with the best sounding marketing. It's the one that gives you enough usable capital at a fair cost with a repayment structure that fits your business. And that's why we like to compare funding options based on both cost and the cash flow impact. So let's just go and do that right now, right here. So this slide compares a few of the most common ways that e-commerce businesses are funding their growth. So let's just imagine in general, you're an operator looking for $1 million in growth capital, and you qualified and got $1 million offers from all of these options. So the first one you might have looked at, and is probably the easiest one and fastest one to get an offer from, is going to be revenue-based financing. And while it's fast and easy, it can be very expensive. So much more than it seems when you do the back of the napkin math. And more importantly, it takes a percentage of the revenue as you sell. So for Amazon sellers and e-commerce businesses, revenue is not the same thing as free cash flow, as you all know. You have your Amazon fees, your product cost, your ad spend, your payroll, your freight, all of your operating expenses. So if a funding company is sweeping cash out of your business based on revenue, not before all of those costs, your growth can start to feel very, very tight. And, usually I would just say, unless this is your only option, try to avoid these revenue-based loans because the way they're advertised and the way they're documented in work in reality don't usually line up. Next is going to be something like a traditional amortized loan. This usually comes with a fair and attractive rate, but the issue with these is the cash flow. So if you borrow $1 million and it amortizes over a year and you start making equal monthly payments every month, you'd have to make $90,000 payments every month when you just borrowed $1 million. So by 6 months in, you really only have $500,000 left. And then, those kind of payments for an e-commerce business, while they're going to probably be smaller than what you're paying on a revenue-based loan, they can really, squeeze your cash flow, especially depending on your margins and things like that. Then the next thing is going to be a private credit line. Those can be a strong option. They usually are going to provide access to meaningful capital. It's going to be relatively cost effective. And they're usually going to be offered by private credit funds and traditional banks that don't really specialize in e-commerce. So that means that they're often going to come with bank style friction. So they're going to have slower underwriting. They're going to have like monthly, weekly reporting and borrowing based certificates. They might have physical audits every quarter and product counts where they want to go to your warehouse and actually count your inventory. They're going to have all kinds of covenants and oversights. And for a large seller with a finance team, that can work and it can be pretty low cost, and that's what they're used to doing. But for most operators, it just becomes a real pain in the butt. And that's really where AccrueMe comes in. So the easiest way to think about AccrueMe is it's basically that private credit line, but built specifically for mid-size e-commerce businesses. So you still get the benefits that sellers want from private credit, so meaningful capital, longer terms, competitive pricing and flexibility, but without forcing an e-commerce business into the traditional bank or credit box. So we've spent more of a decade working with e-commerce operators, and we built our structure around how these businesses actually work. So We use marketplace data feeds, tech-enabled underwriting and compliance, more flexibility around inventory cycles, payout timing, and growth opportunities. And because our tech and e-commerce experience, we can usually offer the best e-commerce businesses, the best combination of the lowest rate, usable capital, repayment or lack of repayment pressure, and lack of operational burden. So for B2B growth, that matters a lot because sellers may need to say yes to larger orders, buy deeper inventory, and reorder faster. And the wrong structure can make a profitable growth opportunity feel like a cash crisis. So also just as like an FYI, AccrueMe's model has changed a lot over the last few years. So if you ask AI to describe like what our normal deal would look like, it's going to tell you about our old profit share model and not our new low cost, long-term $100K to $5 million traditional credit line investments. So basically, to summarize, not all $1 million funding offers create $1 million of usable growth capital. The main thing I'd leave sellers with is this. Before you take capital, make sure the funding actually matches your inventory cycle and your actual understanding of it. One thing that I like to tell people to do is just put the funding doc into ChatGPT and ask them to explain to you the real cost and the real math in simple terms. But for B2B growth, usable capital and repayment flexibility matter just as much, if not more, than whatever the advertised rate is. So, that's basically my message. Thanks again for listening to me, and hopefully this helps make your B2B growth a little smoother and easier.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. So, yeah, great. Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate that. That was really useful as well, and it's kind of a bit of a minefield. So it's good to have a trusted business at the head of that, because I'm kind of shocked looking at some of those figures of amount of payback, 30s and 40% and so on. It's no one can afford that. So appreciate everybody for all those talks. I learned a lot. That was really useful. Thank you very much. We've just got a little time for some questions that have come in. So I just want to ask some of those questions really quickly. So first of all, basically, let me see. So this was to Chelsea, and it's basically, what signals show a product is ready for bundling or case packs, and how can you find those signals, basically? It's still muted, I think, Chelsea.
All right, sure. So looking at multiple unit orders, size orders, consistency of orders, that sort of thing gives that signal of, yes, this product is probably ready for case packs. So those are the things that I would be looking for. Also looking at your subscribe and save reports will help you to identify those things, identify frequency, but could also identify multi-unit orders within that frequency.
Awesome, thank you. And this one is for, let me see, this is for TraceFuse, Shane. I just wanted, how is AI changing the way that Amazon evaluates listings and customer feedback, basically? So how have you seen that changing, I guess, was the first.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's huge, right? I mean, AI is, we're hearing about it on a daily basis, and Rufus just got taken away, and now it's Amazon for shopping, or shopping for Amazon. But either way, it's obviously changing the game, right? I mean, there's a lot of things that are happening historically, as I talked about, when you have reviews or ratings and you make some kind of evaluation on, you can look at the number and say, okay, this is a good product or a bad product. But now what's happening is they're actually doing a synopsis or an evaluation of those. So that does change a lot of things from, if you have a certain thing that is this common thing that's wrong with your product, maybe historically people aren't going to read all the reviews to find out that's an issue. Now it gives you a synopsis of that, right? So that can be either good or bad, right? I mean, if you have bad things that are happening, you're not changing your product, which the good thing is, well, not good thing, but we're changing our product. You had a product that you had 5 years ago, and the product you have today are going to be two totally different products, right? So obviously Rufus, or any kind of the algorithms or any of the AI that's going through Amazon is going to hopefully notice that over time. But my recommendation is always to keep those listings as clean as possible and be more proactive. And I think John might even be able to touch on this a little bit as well, right? I mean, you talk about the feedback and the things that are happening on that side of things. I mean, obviously he's the AI guy and has some amazing tools that you can go and test that and take a look at some of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was, John, I was going to ask you actually, John, personally, how have, in terms of the tools of looking at the, Rufus and Cosmo AI and optimizations, I guess obviously there's data around the improvements that are made, but how have you been surprised that, how impactful that's been, and what happens, I guess, if you change a listing and it kind of doesn't work out, because I'm assuming obviously sometimes that can happen. I'm just wondering what your experience has been so far with optimizing for Cosmo roofers, across the many ASINs you've done.
Yeah, so it's interesting because how do you test for performance on discoverability, right? And Amazon doesn't have a solution in play that tests that specifically. A/B testing doesn't, that's testing conversion on your listing, right? So that's kind of out the window. So, we have a kind of a performance monitoring product that's coming out as part of Helix pretty soon. But at a high level, like what we've been doing so far is tracking sessions. Overall increase in sessions means more discoverability, niche rank, improving your niche rank over competitors, and then obviously conversion rate, right? And so across the 400 brands and thousands of listings that we've done so far, we're seeing improvements in all of those, right? Across the board. So like there's significant ROI that's coming back if you're signaling it in the right way. Whether that's coming from, the mostly from the signaling to the AI, or whether it's just coming from the improvement in conversion rate because of the optimizations that are done, it's interesting to kind of look at that. We are also like reverse engineering the buyer Q&A side and seeing if you're coming up in more recommendations than you were before. So, and we see that, right? So there's definitely, hey, if I'm answering this in a natural way, it therefore will recommend you, and we kind of look at that in our reporting, right? And we also ask like, hey, why are you recommending this one product over the other one? And typically it's because the signaling is not strong enough in the content, right? So, yeah, those are all important things, and certainly the improvement in conversion rate is key. In terms of it dropping down, mostly it's people pushing content and it being flagged for whatever reason they've now got it flagged and it's inactive and it goes down and that kind of stuff. But if your content does go live, we're seeing it improve across the board. And the other note I'd say, the last one there, is that some people are just doing the copy, which it has improvements, but it clearly is, it's copy and images, right? And the more there's conversational search, the decision-making factors are recommended before they even get to the PDP. So the PDP is really just more of a substantiation validation. So they're looking at images, kind of making sure that everything's there. They're looking at obviously reviews, price points, and then they're converting, right? So even that deeper reading on the bullet points is going to become less as the conversational search side improves as well.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. It's just the way that obviously Google's headed, and Amazon, is going to get there as well. Really, personally, I would hate to buy from Alexa personally, but I can, but I can imagine that is the way that things work. The data says that's the way that things are going, and and it will, it's definitely going to happen, and it's going to be increasing as well as, so. Yeah, thank you. I've got a question from someone coming from Ben. It's for Swap. And it's basically, how do you monitor, what's your fee system? Because obviously you mentioned that the labels are free. That looks really interesting as a service. I'm just wondering, basically, so Andrew, what's your payment system basically? How's your business operate?
Yep. So it's monthly. It's based off of, we have like a cap depending on what tier you want to be in, based on the amount of active QRs and the amount of active scans of data we capture and emails we send. So basically it comes with everything and we just cap it per. So if your store that sells up to like 1,000 units a month or up to 10,000 units a month, you might pay like 250 a month. And it comes with everything involved.
Awesome. Amazing. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. And for Ben, I guess like in terms of a business that's coming to look for funding and they may be a little lost as to where to go to. Have you got? I know that you really clearly mentioned in your talk about how that works, but I'm just wondering, what would you suggest that the first steps are? Someone they're aware their business is growing, they need funding. What would your first steps be? To look at and to make sure you don't get make a bad mistake basically.
I would basically apply to a few different options. So, not just find the first one that, comes up in Google search or even that comes up in like an AI search. You can find some like just searching on the seller forums, places like that, but basically just to apply to as many options as you can, or at least start conversations with as many as you can. And most of them will give you a term sheet. or like actual final documents. And then I would just dump those all into Claude or ChatGPT or something like that, because it's gonna everybody everyone tries to make their funding sound the most attractive as possible on the surface with like their marketing. But when you actually read through, these 50, 100, I've seen 200-page documents for funding, there's a lot of fine print that could really end up hurting you. So it's really just making sure that, if you're, that just put it all in ChatGPT and say, tell me like make a table and compare the actual APR, the actual repayment terms, how much is it going to cost me in cash flow, and help me figure this all out. And then you'll have a much better understanding of an apples to apples comparison. And you can decide what works best for you.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Thank you. And I've got one more question for Shane, and it's basically, this is for me actually, and I wonder how hard is it? How is it getting harder to remove reviews, or is it getting harder to remove reviews? With all the different changes that seem to happen constantly in this, basically.
Yeah, it is a moving target. I won't claim that it's getting easier by any means. I mean, obviously, we're filing cases and doing things, and we get ignored a lot of the times, and then we have to file more cases. So it is a tedious process. We've got it down where, now we know where to file, where we're going to have the highest success rate, but that can change, right? Amazon historically does move things and not tell a lot of people. The good news about what we do is because we work with 750 plus brands, we know if Amazon moves that target, right? If we start filing cases and we're not hearing anything, things aren't happening there, we start to get a lower success rate. Then we're always testing different things, different places to file, different terminology to use. We're constantly testing. In the beginning, it was just kind of, let's see if this works. We did that for 2 years, and now we've got it down to a system where we can, because of the amount of things that we file and the amount of data that we have, we can start to see signals that kind of tell us, hey, maybe this isn't the avenue anymore for these types of reviews. Maybe they've switched it up a little bit. So we have some kind of intel through data and through information that is very, very helpful with being able to make sure we have the highest success rate.
Yeah, well, then that makes perfect sense. Thank you very much. Yeah, I appreciate everybody joining today. And so this was MrPrime.com, the first one that we've done. So it's I appreciate you joining, and I've definitely personally learned a lot. And I will be sharing all of the things, all the notes, all the offers, on socials, email, etc., and to the attendees as well. So thank you very much for joining, guys and girls, and appreciate your time. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks. Cheers.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.